This is just a really quick video for my GIT 303 class who needs to be creating a brochure for the GIT program. This is the ASU Communication Guide, and just so you can see how it works and what you need to pay attention to. The biggest thing, it's a pretty useful site, it's pretty easy to find. So if you want to know what the colors are for the ASU color palette, and here's the URL, comguide.asu.edu, very easy to remember. You can go here to the ASU color palette, and you can see. So these are the primary colors, so the maroon and gold, and then of course black and white. And then kind of neutral colors that you can also use if you need some additional kind of colors. And then some secondary colors that can be used as just accent colors, highlight colors, not too much as main colors. So these are the colors you can use, and let me break it down a little further than that. Now, because we're working on print documents primarily when we're talking about brochures and newsletters and stuff like that, we are going to be working in that CMYK color space. You know, RGB is mostly for on-screen color use, and CMYK is for when you are printing documents and using color for that. HTML, of course, is when you're developing websites, you use a lot of HTML. That's part of the hexadecimal code is how you call out colors on web. But for print, we use CMYK. And so you can see here each one of these, the colors, has several different things in it. First, they have the name of the color. Let's just start with black. Name of the color. The combination of CMYK values that add up to that color. Now, black's a little weird. You would think that there would be no color and all K, which is black, right? Cyan, magenta, yellow, and K. K represents black. But there's something that's called rich black or true black. And that actually has some color in it in addition to the just black. If you use just 100 for the K and then zeros for CMY, you kind of end up with almost a charcoal looking color that's just, it looks kind of faded. It looks like a faded black. So for most of your documents, you're going to want to use the CMYK uncoded values of 30, 30, 30, and 100, and you'll get a nice true black that way. Now, other colors are, as you learned, we have spot colors, process colors, and spot colors. So the black and the white are process colors. They're made out of CMYK, but special colors could be Pantone colors. So ASU has the maroon and gold. They use a Pantone color so that they can make sure it's the right color every time. And these are the Pantone values, 123, Pantone 123 for gold, and Pantone 208. And then you can see there's a little kind of caveat down here below. Sometimes 209 looks more purple or red, and then so sometimes you can use different values that might look a little bit better depending on what you're printing on. But in any case, so you can see you also get the CMYK values, and it differs whether you're printing on coated paper, which is kind of like slick paper like you'd see in a magazine, or if you're just printing on regular paper that's not slick. Mostly we print on, well, it depends on what you're printing. So if you're printing a brochure, you might have your printer do it on, make it on shiny, slick paper, and that's coated paper. So you need to also be aware of how it's going to be printed. For this project, for your ASU project, use uncoated because it's a little truer color. Otherwise, don't worry about that. So anyway, that's the colors that you can use. So let's go back to that front page. And now part of the assignment is that you have to use an ASU logo. and other things. Now, I covered this in the instructions to the brochure, so I'm not going to really cover it here. There's a video over there if you want to go watch that. But this is where you can download the ASU logo and also the CTI logo. You need to go here and read the logo uses guidelines, because that basically tells you how you can use the ASU logos, both the regular ASU logo and the CTI logo. And it will tell you, so it kind of describes what each one is called, and then how you can use them in a design. You can use them because you're using them for an ASU class. This is the smallest you can make. I'm sorry, here, let me do this. This is the smallest you can make an ASU logo, so don't make it smaller than 5/16 of an inch tall. Has to be at least 5/16 of an inch tall, which is actually pretty small. You also want to make sure it's not pixely, and the minimum you can do is 47 pixels wide. But you're not going to be doing that for yours. You need to make sure that there is, however tall you make the logo, it has to have that half of that amount of space around it. So if this is 1 inch tall, you need to have half an inch on the top, half an inch on the side, half an inch on the other side, and then half an inch on the bottom, but you can have like the college name or whatever underneath it. And then, so here's an example. The same, it doesn't matter what format it is. And then you can use, this is the colors you can use. You can use full color, and that's the maroon and gold. You can use just maroon, no gold. You can use the gray that we already saw in the colors palette, black, same in the color palette. You cannot put ASU, you can't reverse the letters to white and use them with one of the colors like that. You can do it on another color, but not on a pattern. You can't fade it. You can't change the color schemes. So here they have black font. Oops, black font with the maroon and gold. No, it's either black font with the black logo or maroon and gold with the maroon logo or the maroon text. And you can't change the color of the sunburst, all that stuff. Basically, how you download them is how you can use them. And you also need to be careful of what kind of backgrounds that you use them on. Don't change the fonts. Don't change the structure. Don't, twist them or make them funny, angle them or rotate them. And here's a big one. Be careful of what you put them on top of. It needs to be clear. Make sure there's like basically nothing distracting directly behind the font. That first one on the maroon ASU on the blue sky is hard to read. The second one is, it's okay because you can read it, but just make sure that if you do put the white logo over a image, make sure you can see that image through the little sunburst behind the S. Anyway, so you can keep looking through here and making sure that you don't violate any of those rules, because I will be looking at those when I'm grading. And lastly, let's talk about typography. I'm down here on the bottom. There's some more menu, and I'm going to click on typography. And the biggest thing to remember is that ASU is very picky about the typography. The main font is called Ascendance Grotesque. Now, we typically don't have Ascendance Grotesque, so we usually substitute Arial Bold or Arial Black if you don't have Ascendance Grotesque. Another thing that ASU does a lot is use lowercase all the time. However, you should make an exception for that. when you're using somebody's legal or proper name or other proper noun. A legal entity like ASU or another company. Anytime you put things, you quote somebody on something, you should still use the capital letters, and punctuation. There's really no font size necessary, although they do like kind of bold and heavy, um, but not super heavy, but the bold and heavier like Arial black and Arial bold for headers, and then just regular Arial for text. And the colors, you know, red, black, white, and gold, and sometimes maroon. Um, they do like the edge to edge design, so photographs, images, color from edge to edge. So that's where you need your bleeds. You need to make sure you set up your bleeds for that. Um, and really, that's probably the most. There's a lot of different things in here. Don't put a drop shadow on a picture. They don't like that. Well, actually, you can. They just want it to be, it needs to be kind of very, very, very subtle. They do have some exceptions, lots of different things you can look at, but good examples of what not to do. All right, these are kind of good design examples of what to do, not to do a lot of the time, um, but not always. Sometimes these may be appropriate in other documents, but not ASU ones. The last thing that you can do is I want to, not really sure how we go. Uh, Part of the brand is the font, um, but on this print where it's comguide.asu.edu examples print, this shows you a good example of what a print document that is endorsed by ASU and follows all the rules would look like. So here's one, very basic, and there's the logo down there. It's not too complicated. This one here, I'm going to zoom out a little bit so you can see it a little bit more in the whole. Okay, so this is like this first top ones where it says finding connections, finding your place. That is sort of like a postcard version. And actually, I zoomed out a little bit too much. Let me zoom back in. And you can see the font is being placed over images and using kind of a knockout. So it knocks the color out to the paper, which we assume the paper is white here. So that's kind of what we're looking for. Interesting images like this that are very colorful. Again, the white font on top of the image as sort of a knockout. Lots of that. As well as using a lot of yellow backgrounds with black text. White backgrounds with black text and a little bit of yellow for the highlights or the headers. There's all kinds of different examples here where you can get creative. They don't all have to be maroon and gold or black and gold or black, white, and gold. Although you do see that a lot, they don't have to be. You can be a little more imaginative, especially where it comes to using images. Finally, if you're interested, you can click on this home page. It went too fast for me. And click the Learn More About the ASU brand. And if you go to that page, it kind of talks about branding in general, which you will be doing some branding of yourself in GIT 413. So this is not a bad thing to read, and it will also help you understand the ASU brand as you're making your ASU brochure.